Today I'm going to talk about how to clean a Ploopy Adept bearings. In the past I've talked about how to clean the bearings of a slim blade, and these are static bearings. These little nubbins start to collect gunk, and you can simply use your finger and just wipe the gunk out. Or, and I'll post a link in the video, there's this little tool which I like, and it's got a brush and a little rubber eraser thing. And what I like to do is on the slim blade, you brush out the gunk, and then to get rid of the gunk that sticks around a little too hard, you use this rubber part and then you brush it out. That will really clean it out very effectively as opposed to using your fingers. 9 times out of 10 though, I just use my fingers because it really is simple enough. And then that reduces the stiction. Now, with the Ploopy Adept, the stiction does build up, but it takes months and months. As opposed to the slim blade, I end up having to clean this like 1 to 3 times a day, actually, to keep the stiction at bay. And that's because it's a static bearings trackball mouse. The Ploopy Adept is a dynamic bearings trackball. It's roller bearings. These are steel roller bearings on ball bearings, like a roller blade or a skateball wheel almost. And now, this took me a while, so it built stiction up after about 6 months of use. And when I clean it, it then goes away for another month or so. So cleaning it doesn't bring it back to a 6-month reset. It brings it back to like a 1-month reset. That's still, 1,000 times better than the slim blade. But stiction does build up. Now, I thought that I would have to clean in between inside of the bearings themselves. There are these little balls. So sometimes they call this ball bearings, dynamic bearings, and sometimes they call it roller bearings because this part rolls, but within the bearings itself are these little tiny balls, these beads. Now, I thought I'd have to clean that out, but it turns out you don't, which is kind of interesting. You just have to clean off the surface of the bearing itself, the outer rim. And so what you do is, because it's steel, that little rubber tool doesn't really work on this very effectively. So what I do is you get like a pimple popper or some sort of scraper. Obviously don't use it for its intended use because that's disgusting. Just buy it fresh and new and just use it for the device itself. And what I do is I scrape this black. You see how this is developing a black ring? I hate that I have to touch the camera every time just to focus it in. For whatever reason, at least on my device, it all develops over here on the top left side. These two aren't nearly as bad. They do have, you can see like 2 rings that are kind of developing on these, but they're not nearly as bad. And if I can scrape this off, so you rub it, and what you'll do is try to rub it in a sort of angled motion so that the bearing itself rotates as you scrape so that you can scrape all the way through, and then do it to both sides. So I'll do it to all the bearings, but I'll focus primarily on this top left one. And I don't know if that's just because of the specific way I use my device. Maybe yours will develop particularly on a different bearing, or maybe you'll develop it throughout the bearings evenly. But this guy in particular, this top left one, I need to do very frequently. So you'll get like a metal device, a scraper. You could even use maybe a screwdriver or something and just scrape off the gunk because it really gets in there firmly, and it's very hard to remove with your finger or with a rubber device. Okay? And then, you blow on it after some of the gunk is removed. Now, when stiction develops in the Adept, it's very different with this. With the slim blade, you'll feel this like tiny micro like stutters, and it's especially when there's low momentum or acceleration. You'll feel it be difficult to sort of get it in motion, and that's traditional stiction. With the Adept, it'll feel really scratchy, and it will sort of hop around, and it'll make a lot of sound. And so the experience is quite different. It's a very scratchy feeling, whereas this is like a ticks, micro jerks experience. This one, it's like you have to really rub hard to get it going. And yeah, so that's what you do. So you take some sort of a metal appliance and you remove the black ring that starts to develop.